So for people that aren't familiar, was this getting Agent 47 off the ground? Was this a quick process? Talk a little bit about the genesis of getting this film into theaters.
It wasn't quick at all. The first movie came out, did well, but not well enough for Fox to want to immediately do a sequel. I mean, it cost $25 million, did over $100 million. We were hoping for a sequel, but for whatever reason, it just got stuck in limbo until Chuck Gordon, my producing partner, and I really went after it and brought it out of. At some point, it was going to go direct to video under the direct to video division. This was a previous regime at Fox, not the current regime. But we worked very hard to in order to convince the powers that be that this is a viable brand, this is a viable character, and we needed to reboot the franchise. And what helped us was the games kept coming out, and they did better than the previous one. The last Hitman game actually is the biggest selling Hitman game to date. So that was a very big component in convincing the studio that this character and this property warranted another movie.
When you're making a movie based on a very popular game that clearly generates a lot of money for a company, how much are you dictated by the video game company saying, we don't want to see this, we want to see this, and how much is it they give you the rights and say, go make the movie, make us proud?
Well, the video game company didn't have approvals for Hitman, but they had strong consultation rights. What that means is that we run everything by them, we get their feedback, but we have the freedom to be able to make the creative decisions that we need to in order to make the movie. Movies and games, as you know, are very different, and you can't be a slave to something if you feel that it's not going to be helping you in making the best movie possible. Having said that, the movie and the team's MO was always to be true to the character and the mythology and the history of Agent 47 and put him in a real-world, big, expansive action movie, and I think we did that with this one.
Yeah, one of the things that I love blood and guts, I love hard R, and watching the screening last night with the fans, some of them just reacted so great to some of the kills because they're so bloody and hard-hitting and bodies hitting metal. It's great. So how much did you have any resistance from the studio being like, ooh, this is pretty hard R, or did you always go out with the intention of, this is going to be hard R?
No. This was always going to be R. The studio is in charge of the rating. I mean, ultimately it's their decision, not the producers. But, everyone went in knowing that this had to be an R-rated movie. We wrote the script as an R, we shot it as an R, it was edited as an R. The degree of violence was modulated during the editing process, but, it's based on a mature game. The Hitman games are extremely violent. So we really wanted to make sure that we stay true to that. But hearing the crowd's reaction to 47's kill was very encouraging last night.
Is there going to be on the Blu-ray an extended unrated cut, or is the one that's in theaters the cut that people will get at home?
People should get two cuts on the Blu-ray. One is the theatrical cut, which is an R-rated cut, and the other one, I can't tell at this point whether it's going to be unrated, but it'll be a longer cut with additional sequences in it.
So there's not going to be deleted scenes, it's going to be an actual extended cut or something.
We're trying to figure that out right now. We're trying to figure out if we can do an extended cut or we're just going to isolate the deleted scenes, and I think in the next couple of months we'll figure that out. But there will definitely be multiple special features which would have different scenes that you don't see in the movie.
The cast you put together they're all great in it. They all deliver the goods. How tough was it? One of these things where this is the cast you wanted and the studio then approved? Was it one of these things the studio came at you and said, we kind of like these people? What was the dynamic like?
A collaboration. I mean, every time you're making a movie at a big studio, they have to, the casting of the movie is probably the most important thing outside of the director. So, studio was involved in casting, but, this was a very interesting film in that it felt almost like an independent movie. We had a lot of leeway with this particular one. But, we always wanted Rupert. We actually tested him long before he got the part, and then we came back to him later on, and we felt that he had the gravitas and the complexity and the smarts to be able to portray 47 in the appropriate way. He's a very smart actor. He's a very serious actor, and we wanted someone like that. We didn't want the typical action movie guy or actor, if you will. Zach, who doesn't like Zach Quinto? He can do anything. So we were actually honored that Zach said yes. We felt that he would make a very interesting component of this triangle in the movie. And then Hannah was a process of a year almost of testing I would say, over 100 actresses, and a lot of great ones, but it's such an important role, as you know, since you've seen the movie, and it's such a complex role that we needed an actress to be able to carry the emotion and the physicality of it, and she does a great job in the movie.
One of my favorite films of the last few years was John Wick, and the action unit directors in this, which I noticed in the credits, are the John Wick directors. How tough was it to get them to do this? Was it before John Wick that they got involved? Because they crafted some really kick-ass shit in this.
They're great. I mean, we made a deal with Chad and David's company, 8711, to do the stunt and the action from the get-go. And their core team worked with us. And then when we went back for additional photography, Chad and David came and directed the action scenes and work with the team and our director and to really design the new, and we weren't reshooting stuff. We were actually, the studio liked the movie and they said go and do more action, and Chad and David were involved with it and they did a great job, as evident by what you see in the movie.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
And it was hard to get them, but they wanted to, since their team had started the movie, they wanted to finish it the right way. I mean, normally you would never get those guys after John Wick.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be a little tougher now.
Oh yes, I think so. I think they're doing bigger and better things.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm not mistaken, you are also involved with other video game properties right now. So what is bubbling up for you, and what is it about the video game genre that you find, like, that gets you, that you know what I mean, that you're trying to bring all these properties to life?
Well, I like good stories and good characters, and my number one rule when I go after a project is, do I want to see it? And video games, some of them have stories and characters that appeal to me, and I want to see them on the big screen. That really is the only barometer that I use personally. So I think video games are as viable source material as comic books, as novels, as stories and magazines, as television shows. Just need to be executed the right way. As far as other projects, I'm involved with Deus Ex with Roy Lee, which is based on a big science fiction video game, which I'm very excited about. And Just Cause, another Square Enix game, which hasn't been announced yet. I'm involved in that as well, and hoping to make an announcement about that very soon. I'm very excited about that one. It actually takes place in the universe of Agent 47 in a very loose way, but it's another big action video game.
So you can basically set up Easter eggs back and forth. Is there an Easter egg in Hitman for that?
No.
Oh, that would...
Completely separate.
Okay. Just throwing that out there.
Yes.
Did I interrupt you? Is there other things?
Those are the two main video game-based projects that I'm doing. I'm also doing other non-video game-based projects, but
what is the secret to getting? Because let's be honest here, video game movies have been like the beaten up and just like they haven't been good. Video game movies. This one is a good movie. Like,
thank you.
Until now, you know what I mean? They've just been shitty. So what's the secret to making sure that these other properties are treated the same way as Hitman, as Agent 47? What's the secret of turning these into movies that people are going to want to go see?
Treat them with respect. Don't look at them as a piece of business. Just because a game has sold several million copies, don't go get the rights and try to make it into a movie and completely throw out everything that makes it unique just so you can put a movie out there with that title on it. Just treat it with respect. Treat it the way the best comic book, the people who are making the best comic book movies are. With respect, with reverence, not too much reverence, because you need to make a movie that's broad enough for a larger audience outside of the core. But be respectful to the DNA and what the impetus was for you to go want to make that movie to begin with. Don't forget that. We wanted to make Hitman because he's a great character. He's got a great backstory. He's a great mythology. It's a very exciting world. So we stuck true to that, but we brought him into a bigger movie than what the games are. Games are, a little narrower in their story. I would say the way Marvel does their movies is probably the litmus test of how to do it. It's the standard, in my opinion. They just remain true to the core and the DNA of the character, but they expand it for a broader audience.
What Agent 47's rated R. Do you envision the other movies, other video game properties that you're bringing to the screen as R-rated films? Or do you think that the success of Agent 47 might dictate where a rating falls on some of these other properties?
I think a little bit of both. I don't see Just Cause as an R-rated movie. I think Deus Ex might be R. It depends on the budget. If it's Deus Ex is a very complex movie and it's a big sci-fi. It's a world building. May not warrant an I. And you can get away with PG-13 now more than you ever could. But you couldn't make Hitman PG-13 because that's just not true to the core of that property. So the rating for Hitman is part and parcel with what the identification of the brand is out in the world. Where the other ones, I think you have more leeway.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really enjoy head kills, like John Wick, and you
It's
haven't
good
done...
to know.
Yeah, no, I'm being serious. Like, I like hard R movies. I like, I do. And there's some great kills in this.
Well, we have a lot of headshots in this movie.
You really do.
We may have the record of headshots.
No,
Although
I think John Wick
John Wick probably has the...
Yeah, John Wick is a work of genius. I fucking love that movie.
Well, I'm glad we get to promote John Wick in this interview. That's great.
Something?
I love those guys.
Yeah,
great.
I was gonna say,
I'm
like, you have them on your movie.
I'm happy for them. They're
exactly.
Great. They're really good guys.
Something else I'm really excited about, and it was originally supposed to go after Speed Racer. Speed Racer doesn't do the box office it's supposed to go. Jonny Quest.
Yes.
And you have Robert Rodriguez. Tell people, what's the status of that project? Where are you in the scripting phase? What's going on?
Well, Dan Lin and I have been developing Jonny Quest for 8 years, and a lot of starts and stops. Speed Racer hurt us big time. I don't subscribe to the notion that they were completely different movies, but that's the reality of the studio world. But everywhere I go around the world, when people find out I'm involved with Jonny Quest, doesn't matter how old they are, 40, 50, 12, 18, all walks of life. They love the character. They love that show. They want to see the movie. It's extraordinary. I don't think any of my projects have the want to see and the fan fervor that Jonny Quest does. So Dan and I are now working with Robert Rodriguez, who's directing, and co-writing with Terry Rossio. They've turned in a draft, which is phenomenal. We're doing a little bit more work on it. We hope to turn it in after Labor Day to the studio. And I really feel the timing might finally be upon us that we're going to make the Jonny Quest movie. I think it really is an extraordinary script. And a lot of the credit also goes to Dan Mizzo because we're rewriting his original draft. But Terry and Robert have just brought a zing to it. And I think Robert is going to really, really hit it out of the ballpark. He's very passionate about it.
We spoke to Robert recently, and he gave some quotes, and there was a lot of interest, I will say, based on when he was talking about it. How does the movie you guys envision compare to the animated show? Does it feel like it's the same universe, or do you know what I mean? Like, what's your basis that you're working with?
We're working based on the original 1960s Jonny Quest primetime animated show. That is our, source of not only inspiration, but the pool that we're calling our inspirations from. I know a lot of people like the new adventures of Jonny Quest, and that's fine. But we are now focusing on the original '60s animated show. I mean, Robert, Dan Lin, Terry Rossio, myself, big fans. And look, there's nothing wrong with it. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. That thing is a work of genius. So we're only lucky to have it to reference.
Can you confirm that same character names, same kind of archetypes, or are you mixing it up a little bit?
No, Jonny Quest is in it, Ray Spannon, Benton Quest, Haji is in the movie, even Bandit.
You're going old school.
Jezebel Jade. It's I would say Jonny Quest is I think if you love Jonny Quest, the potential that this movie has to honor that show, I think you'll be thrilled by it.
I would imagine that's like a PG-13.
Yes. We want to make a PG-13. Again, I never want to be presumptuous to, stamp a rating before the studio gets involved. That's ultimately, as I said, their decision. But this is not going to be a kiddie action-adventure movie. This will be an action-adventure that happens to have a 12-year-old in it.
I think Robert might have said something, I don't know if he said Indiana Jones. He said something like that, like it's something along those lines, where it's an action adventure that happens to have a kid. Maybe that's what he said.
That's all of us. That's what we want. That's our MO for this movie. Indiana Jones meets James Bond.
I know you have Jonny Quest in the video game. Are there other things bubbling up? Are you trying to get your hand in like comic book stuff? Like what else is going on?
All the comic book stuff were taken thanks to your buddies at Marvel. Right. And then Warner Brothers. So,
there's Image Comics out there.
I'm excited about Enormous, which is a project of mine that I'm producing with New Regency and 20th Century Fox Television. And we have the entire team now in place. I can't tell you who they are, but the entire team is in place. The writer, the showrunner, and hope to be able to move forward with that very quickly.
There are some big movies coming out in the future, and my love of Man of Steel. How excited are you, personally, for Batman, Superman, Star Wars? Which is the movie that, if you could see tomorrow, and then you can't see anything else for a year, that you see?
Well, Batman, Superman, and Star Wars are they're my two most anticipated movies. I mean, by far. I grew up with Star Wars, and Batman and Superman feel like family to me. But if I had to see one movie, Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice, because
the worst title, but go on.
I think it's the greatest title of all time for a superhero movie. The trailer is incredible, and I think the movie is going to deliver on that trailer, and as a matter of fact, surpass it. I think the creative team is incredibly well balanced with Zach, Ben, and Chris Terrio, and I think it's really going to launch the DC universe in a huge way.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I cannot wait to see that movie.
Dude, me too. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Let me hit